For those of you who are new to Psychable, welcome home. Our mission is to empower individuals seeking the healing properties of plant medicine and psychedelic care with trusted practitioners, knowledge, and a community that truly supports them. So, whether you came to us through Psychable, the microdosing method, or this is your first time in our circle, we're so happy to have you here with us. And before we begin, I just want to name a few things. This is a safe space, and all of you are welcome here. I'm going to invite all of us to leave our masks at the door, leave our rolls, leave whatever we've been carrying even 5 minutes ago. And so for the next hour, you do not have to be anything other than exactly who you are. And the second thing is we are here to meet you at the center line. We know that we can't do the work for you, but we are here and we are fully present with you while we are in this time in the circle together. And thirdly, a reminder is that there is no guru or expert on how to heal you. You are your guru, you are your expert because you are the one living in your body. And so we are here to offer tools, to hold a safe space, to walk alongside of you. And know that you didn't show up here by accident today. And so, just rooted in that saying, I'd like to invite you to just find a quiet, comfortable space, have some water nearby, have a journal if you have one. And when we close today, give yourself to really integrate from this time we are about to enter today. And so, a bath, a walk, some quiet time, a few deep breaths. This is your time. So, let's begin. I'd like to invite Sarah, our guest, on right now to light a candle for us to begin the circle. Sarah, will you please join us?
Yes, I would love to. I'm unable to put my video on, I think, because you turn it off.
Oh, here we go. There you go. I just sent the invitation over
All
to you.
right, awesome. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me in your circle today. I have a candle that I'll be lighting for us, and um, it has two wicks, which matters for today. Because today, as we go over the idea of nervous system, we can begin to see possibly how this brings us together in community as well. Here's the candle.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Mm.
Before we start today's session, I just want to share a few housekeeping things. Um, You are warmly invited to join our monthly Wisdom Circle. This is where we are sharing life teachings, such as today, from our global thought leaders, our sacred teachers. We have this as our monthly integration circle and workshop, and also a private community of people walking this path alongside each other. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a link in that chat right now with all the details. Um, and we also have a free Facebook and WhatsApp community group open to everyone. So again, links are in the chat. And if you or someone you know that feels called to microdose in a really safe, intentional way, we've also included the microdosing method waitlist link in the chat. So one last thing is please mark your calendar for our next Psychable Wisdom Circle, and that's going to be the first Saturday on June 6th with our extraordinary Eugene Gant, a beautiful brother who's been with us for a while now. And those of you who have been so blessed to receive his medicine with the breath, I'm sure you can attest to the transformation and just yeah, how impactful the time with him is. So it's going to be titled From Chaos to Clarity and a breathwork ceremony for the soul. And this is also around resourcing you during these very pivotal times that we find ourselves in. So I'm going to drop a link right now to Eugene's event. It was also included in the list that I sent over. So, okay. For those of you that are new here, my name is Reverend Jamie Sekou. I am the CEO and founder of Psychable. And I want to start with something that might surprise you. So, right now in this moment, your nervous system is making decisions for you. And so before you think a thought, before you choose the next word, before you even know what you're going to feel, your body is already responding to the room, to the container, to the energy, to the frequency, and to the times that we're living in. And the science can prove it. There is now studies from neuroscientists out of the University of Parma that discover that your brain has mirror neurons that fire within 200 milliseconds of being in the presence of another person. So that's less than a blink of an eye, which means before anyone in the circle says a single word, we are already impacting and affecting each other, and we are already co-regulating. And so, whether we know it or not, we are either pulling each other into steadiness or into a spiral. So, this is biology, right? And so, this is why I think that matters so much right now. We are living in a moment that is designed to dysregulate us.
Mm.
There's the news cycle, the algorithm, the uncertainty, the not knowing of what tomorrow looks like, or even what the world looks like, and what is actually true, right? And so researchers call that what happens in our brain under these conditions. It's called the default mode network. And that is a loop of rumination, narrowing our vision, shrinking creativity, contracting the possibility. And so when we are stuck in that loop, we don't make our best decisions from there, do we? And when we don't show up as our fullest selves, when we don't access the intuition that might wake us up at like 11:54 at night with this like visceral knowing about what we need to do next, we just go into survival mode. We shrink, and the surviving is ultimately not enabling us to fully live and fully thrive in our lives. And so this is also something what science tells us, and this is the part that I really want to just really emphasize here. We see that even a Stanford study found that stories and experiences starts to activate the sensory cortex and the motor cortex and the limbic system simultaneously and all at once. And when we are in genuine connection, true, authentic connection, when we really feel seen, when we feel heard, when we feel felt, and when we are in a room with people who really get it, something starts to shift in our brain and in our body. And so that's where creativity expands, flow starts to have that connection again, clarity comes forward, and the nervous system, your nervous system, begins to remember that it is not alone, right? And so this is why this circle exists. And so this isn't to just give you another tool on your list, right? It's not to give you more information that you're going to forget by Monday, but it's really to help you locate something really real inside of yourself, something stable, something that is yours and that is your birthright. And so when the world gets loud again or chaos is around you, you will always have a place to come back to. And so I've been thinking a lot lately about what it means to stay centered and calm without shutting down, right? To remain connected, to remain engaged without being swept away, uh, to feel the wobble of these times, but not let it become your nervous system's set point. And ultimately, to stay in our center while being acutely aware about what is happening all around us and even at a macro level. And so, this is why I invited my dear sister, who is an incredible nervous system expert, Sarah Tacy Tangredi, who is joining us today as our special guest. She has spent decades doing this work with Olympians, top executives, and some of the most high performing humans on the planet. And one in which our dear friend is a New York best-selling author, Kate Northrup. Some of you which know her very well. And what she has learned and what she has lived is that regulation and like supporting our nervous system, it's not a luxury. It is the core foundation to everything that we do. And Sarah is also an acclaimed mind body trainer. She's also a somatic educator, and she's also a creator of Threshold Moments podcasts. And that podcast is dedicated to the journey of just becoming the truer versions of ourselves through body-led transformation. And so with that said, I would like to please welcome Sarah into our circle. And as she is joining us, let us hold our intention for this hour. Take a moment to, yeah, just even form an intention of what you would like to bring forth during this hour. And lastly, I want to invite you all to come with no preconceived ideas or notions of how or what will happen during this time. Just come open, come willing, come ready for the infinite potential of what will unfold. And that is available to every single one of us in this field right now. So, Sarah, over to you. Oops, Sarah,
Okay, there we go.
there you go.
I was like, can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, okay, great. Here I am. Here you are. Fully human. I think Jamie said this, welcome as we are. Jamie, I would love to just take a moment to do a little reflection on you, just as you being the container holder, which is to really take a moment to appreciate how much care you have for this container. She organized this over 6 months ago and, has checked in and just like so organized and so deeply caring. And whenever I talk to Jamie, there is a coherence, an integrity, and a reliability in the sense that she's really committed to this practice, to this coming home to self, to what is truth beyond what we see in the news or all the stuff that's coming in at us, to just keep attuning to herself, to her practice. Uh, I would most likely say like to the wisdom that's around us. And it's such a gift every time I get to check in with you and be in your presence and in your container. So thank you for having me. And then I'd love to just ask those of you who are here, when you saw something called opting out of urgency, I'm wondering why you might put aside an hour, maybe an hour and a half on a Saturday to come to something like this. And maybe you could put it in the chat, like what, when you saw that freeze or you saw what was coming, what drew you here? I've been chasing my mom since I was born. She moves so fast. Yeah. So the patterns we've learned, and just as Jamie said, the mirror neurons that are in our brain or in our body, it's not what our parents or anybody says to us. Our systems are learning from other systems and taking those in as patterns of how we survive and move. Anybody else? Opportunity to settle, reconnect, and restart daily activities. We're always encouraged to do more, achieve more. I've been working on slowing down and attuning to my body and not judging myself for this. Beautiful. If anyone wants to just like take time and add to the chat, you're welcome to. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, a little bit about my story and what led me to opting out of urgency and this mind body work. And I'll give you like one takeaway from kind of like, I don't want to say like each decade of my work, but maybe it's like every 5 years, there's like a line or an idea that just really sticks with me. And it still feeds this idea of opting out of urgency. And it's a message that has continued to come from a variety of lenses over time. I grew up as an athlete, and I grew up thinking that my body was there to get me, obviously, as fast as it could, at the highest level as it could, to the best results. And anytime I got injured, I saw that as my body getting in the way. So frustrating, my body's getting in the way. And I had so many injuries. I also wanted to get straight A's, just like all of the things that would get me love, support, accolades, a sense of worthiness without, of course, having that to identify. Until one day I got such a bad back injury that I couldn't get out of bed and had a hard time walking for almost a year. And everything I identified with just crumbled away. And many of us have these moments at some point in life where the thing we built our identity around dissolves. And it's a real reckoning of reality. And my reckoning at that point was what is the body? Because when I went into pain, I also started to feel waves of depression, which I hadn't known yet. And I noticed that when my body hurt, my mind hurt, my energy levels changed. And I really, really got deep into the study of yoga, energy healing. I had already done all of the physical therapy for years and all of the testing. And so I had to reach out and expand my web. This led me into the world of yoga and yoga therapeutics starting in 2005, but I also did research and development for a sports training facility. So when I say I've been working with the nervous system for over 20 years, at that point, it was working on how do we upregulate the nervous system? How do we upregulate reflexes? How do we change patterns? Upregulation and speed doesn't have to be a bad thing. But the interesting thing that I learned was that we can't create an updated pattern in a state of fatigue. And this is coming from the athletic field, right? So we might have them do a 6-second sprint and recover for 10 times that amount of time. Otherwise, they'd fall into old patterns. And most of us don't have 10 times the amount of time to rest as we do to be active. But it was just this moment of, wow, isn't that true for most things in life? If we just keep going and we keep going and we live in a constant state of fatigue, we're more likely to replay the patterns of our mothers, of our fathers, of our great grandmothers. And so many of them had such amazing survival strengths. But when we say we want to update the pattern, what I now know and what I knew 20 years ago is that the recovery is as important as the effort to update. I began then working with Olympic athletes, so I should say professional hockey players. And one of them was also an Olympic athlete. And he had been in the NHL for 19 years. He won the Stanley Cup that year. He was the captain of his team. And he said to me, Sarah, these young guys, they could run through a brick wall, but they'll only last 4 years. And I'm wondering how many of you have run through a metaphoric brick wall? And those young guys aren't running through that brick wall because they're like, that seems like fun, but because it's what's gotten them that far. And any day they could get cut from a team. So to find what I call the sacred third, which is, we might go into this more later in the class, I must go harder and faster than anyone else, or I might as well quit, or I must go harder and faster than anybody else, and it'll only last 4 years. The sacred third would ask us, is there anything in between? Is there any way, while I go hard or fast because it's something I'm passionate about, that I can really amplify moments of rest and self-care, that I can really choose what I look at with my eyes, who I surround myself with, what food I take in. So even if I don't feel like I have more time than the people around me, that the choices I make are there for the nurturing of my system. From there, I went to work with the people I found actually like the most fulfilling to work with were people who were in chronic pain. I also worked with people during the 2008 economy crash, CEOs in New York City, and then people who were in chronic pain who were told that they couldn't be healed. By this point, I had some pretty amazing immediate energy healings that had happened through my hands that I couldn't explain. So, what this told me, on top of wanting to study the science because I felt like a weirdo, like I was just like back then I didn't know much about this stuff, was there is a force and there is an energy that is so much wiser than my brain, than most of our brains. And what I really came to when I got to work with people that most people were a little bit scared to work with was that through deep listening and asking questions and creating space and support, this blueprint of wisdom was able to come through and help people get to a new level of stability and freedom. And so, my phrase back then, if it's helpful at all to you now, was how can I create space and support? So, back then, because I very much worked in a very physical, hands on way, it was like, how do I create space and support for the joint so that the nerves have more space and support? And then we'd ask questions about their family and their food, and not as me needing to fix, but just like, oh, that's an interesting pattern. So every time your mother-in-law is here, you go into spasm. Oh, interesting. And so then we go, and how can we create space and support? In 2019, I got much deeper into somatics for trauma resolution. And I studied for 5 years pretty intensely with Bridget Vixnans of alchemical alignment. And her methodology would fall into the category of being quite yin. It's much less of like, test this before, do this tool, test it again after. And it's very much about like touching into the subtle fields, presence, deep listening, paying close attention, co-regulation, and seeing maps for orientation. Her method, which really aligns truly with all nervous system methods, is small, doable pieces over time. Because it's not unusual when we come out of a freeze that those layers of freeze are bound together through shame. And so we need to resource ourselves as we defrost from these layers because sometimes it feels a little harder when we first start to feel the things that we didn't want to feel before. So this brings me up to present time. As Jamie Sekou has said, I have been doing nervous system calls for Kate Northrup's program for 3 years and one-on-ones, and I run my own program called Resourced, and I have a membership called Juice, which is a movement practice to get all of the energy that sometimes is suppressed expressed so our bodies don't have to hold it all and use energy to do so. And Jamie said this, but I just want to reiterate. A few weeks ago, I was having my own all or nothing thinking because I was really feeling this existential dread from all of the happenings in the world, really feeling the pace of AI and a lot of the political things. And I was like, oh, is this even working? And as I really sat with it, I was just reminded that this is the work of our time to come back home to ourselves when it seems like it might be too much, when it seems like um, there are more demands than resources, that this is the time to gather as community, to come home to ourselves, to do the practices because it's needed more now than ever. So last September, I taught a free 3-day workshop that was 90 minutes apiece called Opting Out of Urgency. And I really got to sit with like, what is urgency? And it's really funny to do the biggest launch of your life and call it opting out of urgency. And I had affiliates, and everybody needed their swipe copy. And I had like 20 extra emails to write and podcasts to record. And the beauty of urgency, when you think of all the direction our attention could go, the beauty of urgency is that it could say, hey, if you have this one thing and it's time bound, it can really help clarify your yes and your no. But urgency, just like sprinting, is meant to happen in a small container for a short period of time. And it's best if you can have agency within your urgency. So I found myself at my friend Laura Sprinkle's retreat, and I thought I was there to support her. It was like her first in-person retreat. I found on the other side that actually the retreat supported me, but I was calling my friend Jen Rassiopi, and I was like in the parking lot, I'm like, I should be checking into a hotel and just working on my material. I have emails to write. It was like, what am I doing here? And the all or nothing was like, be at the retreat or check into a hotel and just write for days. And again, I looked for the sacred third. I didn't know we were going to talk about the sacred third today, but here it is. And I checked in with Laura and I said, hey, would it disturb your flow too much if I just like went to a yurt and wrote? And I went into the yurt and I'm trying to write, and somebody comes in and said, hey, or is there a yoga mat? We're doing a breath work thing outside. And I was like, no, but I'd love to join the breath work. And I go out, I do a 20-minute breath work routine. Then we all go skinny dipping because, why not? And I come back and I had the same exact list waiting for me, but it felt completely different. And this was kind of the wake up call I needed. I'll tell you more about like why I chose opting out of urgency, but I was like, oh, right. Every time that we can identify that feeling of, and maybe we can write it in the chat, like what is your thing that tells you that you're no longer in your body? For me, it's overwhelm, or all the things put me into a freeze. And I look at the list and I'm like, that's so much. And then I can't start. Or I try to start, but it doesn't go anywhere and the creativity is gone. 20 minutes of breathing. And that list suddenly felt like, oh, I could do that in a week and I can't wait to start writing. It was so cool. And so what happened is I spent the next 3 days pendulating, writing. And I know we don't always get to live at a retreat center, but writing. And then there was a song circle. And one of the songs we'll share with you today, going to a song circle, writing, community meal, writing, being a part of the workshops, which I couldn't do the day one. And it was just that ability to like every time I start to feel myself going into there's too much and that feeling like it's all on me. That's another one. Every time I think it's all on me, I've lost connection, and it's a really good sign that I'm no longer in my range of regulation or my range of resonance. Can any of you guys add or in the chat things that are like signs to you that your nervous system has gone into fight, flight, or freeze or fawn? Someone the other day in Relax Money mentioned like, oh, I noticed that I start splitting hairs, which usually happens that we're doing it with ourselves, we're doing it with the people in our family. Maybe it's like being judgmental or the feeling of scarcity. I'm judging from the eyes on there that people are typing, so I'm just gonna pause. Oh, I see. I'm not seeing them. It says 9 new. There we go. Sorry, guys. You're like, no, it's there. Um, I'm judging when I notice that I need to catch my breath. I get angry. Yes. My sign, brain fog, ear plugged up, headache, heart racing, anxious thoughts, distraction, overwhelm. Courtney says focusing on the people, on other people's needs, actions, etc. I either curl up on my couch and can't do anything or move too fast. Yeah, and so that's like the all or nothing on a nervous system map. It's like hyper hypo, and how often many of us go between like get it all done and then like collapse. Now I can't do anything. Yeah. Yeah. And Monica, the I get angry too. A great question that my teacher asked me once was like, what do you have for a fight outlet? And back then I was like, well, I don't get angry and I don't feel a need for it. And I realized that my fight was frozen. So this is actually part of what we do in Juice every Wednesday too. We have a section where it's like, um, just like it could be like stomping the feet or taking a big inhale and bumping the heels and or like throwing elbows, so that we're not, sometimes when we try to regulate and we do all the calming things, what our system needs sometimes is actually just to like express the frustration in a way that's not non-harmful. It's just like it just needs to show like, oh, I'm creating a boundary. I'm making the sound. Um, so just like want to add that in here too. Slamming a medicine ball on the ground is the best. I'm a swimmer and water calms me. Yes, I go to water Pilates. Avoiding the supportive tools. I've learned, yes. Okay, so that's like, I don't want to say the most honest, but that is so true that when we need the tools the most, they're the hardest to access. So the way that a three direction map goes is that if activation goes up like this and time goes this way, as we start to get activated, say we just notice like, oh, I'm holding at the top of my inhale, which is usually where we go if we're trying to learn something new. Top of the inhale. Hold, okay, okay, so now I'm going to take some breaths. Oh, I'm just feeling a little uncomfortable. Now I'm going to scroll on Instagram. It could be anything to soothe and distract. We could say it's a nervous system tool. It could be a cigarette. It could be like, you could call it good or bad, but we soothe and distract. And when we don't, and we go higher into activation and we go up into looping, that's where it's like, I don't know if you've ever done this. I sure have. Like, I have witness consciousness and it sees me in an argument with my husband. And it's like, all you have to ask is, how do you feel? Right? Like, tell me how you feel instead of like, you said this and blah, blah, blah. And like, I can see like my amygdala is hot and my prefrontal cortex has so little energy and power going to it. So every now and then, there are times where the thing is just really big and loud. And so for me, sometimes what's easier if I do go into looping, I can acknowledge that the tools that generally help me out earlier might not help me out as quickly. And I could also ask the question, like, is there anything that would help move this energy that feels aligned with it? So if it's like anger, instead of being like, okay, I should be doing breaths. If you try to do a 4-7-8 breath while your heart rate is up, it's going to be very stressful. It's very hard to change your breath when your heart rate is going fast. So if this is just like a little, little thing for you, if it's helpful, it's like sometimes when we're up in the looping, sometimes like walking around and, pacing or like, like making sounds, like moving the energy instead of trying to quiet it can sometimes be less of a jump when we're highly activated than, than the calming activities. And the calming activities sometimes will come after that. Like emotions will move and will begin to down regulate with more ease. Is that helpful at all? And I know I've gotten off a call before where it was 500 new people I don't know. And I was like totally being myself. And it felt so good. And then I got off and my body was like, what just, what did you just do? You know, like you just undressed metaphorically in front of 500 people you don't know. And it wasn't one tool. Like I laid on the earth, I called some friends. Um, so sometimes it takes time to really come down. Okay. I'm going to go back to the urgency theme. Recover. Yes. Recover, just like athletes. So I woke up and I love that Jamie said, did you say like 11:39? It was like something very specific. I woke up that first night at 1:30 and I tried to do the calming things. I put my hands on my heart and took a deep inhale and tried to exhale longer than my inhale. And after like a half an hour, I still wasn't asleep. And I go, oh, my body's wise. My body knows that there's something creative that wants to move right now. So I was in there with a roommate, and so I got my journal and I went out in the rain and got in my car, and I had like 2.5 hours of like the clearest writing I've ever done. And in there, it was also very like delusional at the same time. I was like, urgency, agency, emergency. You know, and you're like, is this genius or delirious? Um, what is the Gency? Because to emerge without the Gency is just a becoming. What is urgency without the Gency? It's just to have an urge. An agency, the A is without, is like without that, you feel powerful and in choice. And the opposite of trauma physiology is choice and a feeling of not being alone. So often when we have a traumatic situation, we are around others, but we feel powerless, without choice, and isolated, even in the company of others. So I began to just like really like, what is it like without the Gen Z? And I thought about um, this doctor who was a brain surgeon, James Doty, who's a brain surgeon, and he was in the ER and he was working on a fourth grader. And it was a long surgery, and the person who was next to him was a newer surgeon, and he nicked a vital vein. And James Doty took over, and it was for all means and stakes an emergency. And he put his hand to just feel and palpate, and he said, I went back to the magic shop, which is where he learned 30 years before that how to come into his body, how to come to his breath. And he said he entered a different realm of complete presence and was able to feel with his finger and find the exact spot to press into and save this child's life. And it's inspiring to me to think that whether it's an emergency or whether it's urgency time bound, that we could find some agency within it. I'm going to tell you one more story, and then we'll have an experience together. I love this, guys. There's always a part of me that feels like I should be way more scientific. Um, but I'm feeling like very free um, and I think in a world where people have tried any level, and I don't know if all the people in here have or not, any level of microdosing or psychedelics where you get wisdom that is beyond the books, but also weaves just right. So right before I was about to be with this big group, I did a somatic session, which for me often has a feeling of wisdom that's beyond me. And my mentor said, this is a different mentor, is Tel Darden. I'd love for you to imagine the field. And now I would love for you to imagine urgency entering the field. And immediately what I saw was that we were all in this Greek um, Parthenon. And urgency, if you think of it's like the letter U, just like you'd see on Sesame Street with a crown on it. The letter U with the crown on it comes in on a marble pedestal being carried on the backs of these humans. And everybody on the Parthenon bows down. So nobody is even looking at urgency. And what I want to say about this, it's the same as the comment is like, my mother was always moving fast. It's like we're all bowing to urgency without even knowing it because our grandparents are, because our parents are, because everyone around us is bowing down so much that we can't even see that it's not the only way to live. And I would say it's not our fault because society is also built this way. So this one woman stands up and she looks urgency in the eye, and it's so intense. And my conscious mind was like, oh, everyone stand up with her. And it just starts to like crush her. And then somebody from down below reaches up and holds her hand. And they actually draw her down to them and they turn her away from urgency and just hold her. And then the person who is the other side bowing turns to her too. And now the three of them are just tending to each other. And before you know it, people start turning towards each other and away from urgency. And they start talking to each other and they start noticing each other. And they start singing. And they slowly start standing up, but nobody's fighting urgency. They're not even looking at urgency. They're just so interested in each other and seeing each other for the first time. And the interesting thing that then happens is that urgency starts getting smaller and the pedestal disappears. And urgency begins to change its energetic form and go into the earth. It goes into the earth and under the earth. And then it comes up as this white light and goes into each human in a way that was empowering. The way that I sensed it was that it just gave everybody agency because they were in community together. And this may all sound like philosophy right now. I've spoken a lot. But for me, it's like, I can't tell you how often I do feel alone. And then I remind myself of this image and I sing a song to myself that I actually have here with Jamie. And the other day I was on a walk and I started saying, I'm not alone, I'm not alone, I'm not alone. And I start noticing the trees and I start turning my senses on and I start noticing that like, oh, I'm with my dog and I start hearing the birds. And then I get to call a friend and then I can make adjustments to be like, oh, right, like taking time to slow down with my kids. So again, feeling like I'm alone it's like a note of being out of regulation. So actually, Jamie, I would love if you'd play this song and then we'll all do an experience together. This is a song, circle song, so it is meant to be sung together, but I know on Zoom that doesn't quite work.
I'm not alone, 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 I'm
And
not
you're all on mute,
alone,
but if you
I'm
want to
not
sing with it,
alone, I'm not alone,
even
I'm
when she
not
goes into the
alone,
verses, you
I'm
can
not
keep singing
alone,
this over and
I'm
over and
not
just see how it
alone,
feels in your
I'm
body.
not alone, I'm not alone, I'm not alone. I forgot for a minute who I belong to. The Mama Earth, the wind and rain, the beauty and the pain. I'm not alone. For me, the world was created. I'm not alone. To dust I
So my girls and I sing that together too. And it's just in my head all the time, and I love it. And I was first introduced to that by Tarzan at Laura Sprinkle's retreat, and then she sang it again at Kate Northrup's Relax Money Live. And yeah, it's like the reminder of these times, because what urgency does and what speed does when it's our chronic state, speed and urgency when it's chronic keeps us from feeling all the things there are to feel and notice. So we're more likely to oblige other people's needs, things that people told us we should do, things that authorities would they say like this is the truth, and we have a harder time connecting to ourselves. So when I teach meditations and I start speaking slowly on purpose, people will say, "Why am I crying?" Some people say this feels so uncomfortable, because we've been taught that slow is equal to death. Slow is equal to not surviving. But really slow is also the speed of the body. And it's the speed that our body and mind can often come. It can happen in fast, but it often is where we can start to sense into deeper truths. And so if we're kept in a state of urgency, we're often kept away from our own intuition and our own knowledge, which again, I am not against AI, but it is moving so fast. And if I can't pause and resource my body, then I'm going to lose myself and think that I'm all alone. And the more that I attune to myself and the more that I break away from urgency, the more choice and empowerment I have, right? Like, then the more I start to notice, oh, there are trees and birds. So what I would love to do with this group, we have 13 people. I think one might be Fathom, so that's 12 people. And I'm wondering if everybody could come off of mute. And if you don't want to participate, you don't have to. And Jamie, I'm wondering if you might just be able to read, like call somebody's name. What I would love to do, it's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. And the point of this is not just to learn something that you probably already know, but actually what happens when you listen to other people as they slow down and notice something about their space. So I'm going to ask you to just possibly speak like a little bit slower than you normally do. And instead of doing 5 things because of the size of the group, we'll just all do 2 things. So if I were to start, it doesn't have to be special either. It just happens to be in front of me. I see a flower crown that is dried out with a purple bird on it. That was given to me at my last baby shower, Mama Blessing. I see a card that says, keep it simple.
Keisha.
I see this new Oracle deck I just got called Earth's Hymn Oracle Deck. And you all are not going to believe this, but I pulled a card last night and it is moss. And it says, move so slow you can hear yourself living.
Beautiful. Thank you, Keisha. Christine.
I see a beautiful plant that's in the corner of this Airbnb that I'm staying in. And then I see my cute denim jacket that I love hanging on the coat rack.
Thank you, Christine. Monica.
I see a green balm of pine trees that is liquid with rain in the North Carolina sky today. And I breathe that clean air that's provided by that green balm, and it refreshes me. And I see these beautiful boxes that I've created and curated throughout the year who have been given to me by people who love me. So I feel love.
Mm. Thank you so much, Monica. And Thea.
I see a string of colorful birds across my window that a friend gifted me and it happens to be her birthday today, and I'm noticing these for the first time in a while. And I also see an symbol that I'm also re-noticing for the first time in a long time, hanging on my wall, that I got in India.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you. Courtney.
I see a painting that that I've just started living with that was in my mother's house. And I love looking at it because she spent a lot of time looking at it before her last couple of years of life because she was resting. And so I like seeing it through her eyes in some ways. And then in a similar vein, I also see my golf clubs that have not been enjoyed due to a back injury that I've been nursing. So it is something reminding me of my own patience and healing and slowing down to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a burst of clusia trees and bushes in front of me with palm trees behind it dancing in the wind. I see different colors and shades of green. I notice the blue in the sky and the outlines of white puffy clouds.
Thank you. And Jamie, I just want to check in. Those who aren't on camera, if anybody wants to say what they see, they can. And if we don't hear from you, I'll take it from here. So I love this exercise in general. I do it with my kids. But why I love doing it with an online group is because I feel like, so maybe I'll start with this. Anytime we bring our awareness to sensations that signal safety, abundance, plenty, stability, which generally are around us most of the time, we start to bring ourselves into presence. We start to come more to our breath and we stop running so much of like, what do we need to do next? What was that thing and that thing? And it's just like awe and appreciation. And we get all of the positive hormones from awe and appreciation. And our brain chemistry begins to shift and the wiring begins to shift from the ruminating, like Jamie said, the default mode network, which will go into rumination and also self-identity around that negative rumination. And the more we go into awe and wonder, the default mode network starts with creative thinking, like daydreaming, and I wonder statements. And when you move into I wonder, the reticular activating system at the base of your brainstem begins to pull in information to support this new physiological state or this other physiological state. So if you are in a place of fight or flight without even knowing it, you would notice possibly primarily like the things that are out of order, or you just wouldn't notice things at all because you're so forward thinking. When we start to slow down, there are about 11 million bits of information per second coming to the brain to be filtered. And anywhere, I've read one study that said 10 bits. I've read one that said 40, and another said that 120. And I think it's probably hard to measure the exact number. But the point is, just a few bits of information get through per second compared to the millions that are trying to get in. My favorite story I've been telling since last year when this happened was when I was at a store with my husband and I left. He was checking out at the cashier with the cashier, and I said, "I'll be in the car. I love you." And my husband was busy checking out, and he probably had other things on his mind. So I just paused, and then the cashier paused. And then my husband's like, kind of looked up like, "Oh, why did everything stop?" And so his reticular activating system had to now scan for new information that it had missed. What important just happened that everything just stopped? And then it hit him that I had said, "I love you." And he turned and he goes, "Oh, I love you too." And the cashier was like, "I wasn't going to keep checking you out before you responded to your wife." And the best part about this is things that are familiar can go really fast, like those birds on your window, right? Like they're there and they're beautiful and they're a gift from a friend. And I like almost never look at this crown that literally a bunch of loving girlfriends like hand wove for me. But when I stop to notice even like how stable the wall is, it starts to shift my system. My reticular activating system pulls in new information. So it just made me think like, how many times has someone said, "I love you"? And it's possible that you didn't hear it. You physically didn't hear it. We even know that depending on the volume of a voice, if someone says something really loud, that our brain from childhood even can just like, it will not process the words coming in. So again, to opt out of urgency means that we go slow enough to be able to be resourced enough, to be present in the moment so that we can be curious, so that we can have intuition, so that we can hear that someone said, "I can help you," or that somebody over there is talking about the exact same thing that we were curious about or that we needed help with. So as we slow down, our possibilities for a better life also begin to uptick. What becomes important is that there is fast health. Like you go mountain biking and you could go skiing and you could be in your body while doing that. Urgency is a chronic state of I must, I can, I must, I can, I must, I can, I must, I can. And the syndrome was I must, I can't, or I can't, but I must. Both of them are outside of the range of regulation. And the way back in to the range of regulation or the range of resonance or the range of choice is through these small doable steps of like thumping your heels, of calling a friend, of noticing the 5 things that are around you. So if you wanted to do it on your own, and I love to say it out loud too. It's like an added layer for the brain and the body to say it out loud, to say it slowly. 5 things I see. And I notice that adding texture to it really helps. 4 things I feel. They're not like I feel happy or sad. It's like I feel my hair on the back of my ear. I feel my waistband across my lower abdomen. I feel the sheepskin rug under my feet. So you do 4 of those. Then you do 3 things you hear. which it's so funny when you do this, you're like, oh, inside, it's so sanitized usually. You go outside in the spring and it's like, oh, chipmunks, birds, the wind. Like there's so much positive sensory input. Two things you smell, one thing you taste. And again, it's a very like child-friendly co-regulation practice to do, and you can do it by yourself. When Jamie and I were speaking about today, I know that you also have a call with Elizabeth Christoph, who's freaking amazing. She was just on my podcast. Um, and she has so many great tools. There's like hundreds of great tools. But today I really wanted us to have time to just like see the broader picture and do a self-regulation practice together. I'm curious how some of you may have felt when you heard other people sharing what they saw. And feel free to come off mute if you want.
I could feel the good feelings, like of the birds and things and the ohm and the green, however Monica put it, that rush.
I felt energy. I felt just wonderful, like warm energy.
Yeah.
I felt connected. I didn't feel alone.
Same.
I felt peaceful, especially when Monica was describing the trees.
Mm. I felt love. I felt love from everyone's statement, and especially when you were talking about your mother and looking at her painting, seeing it through your eyes. Your eyes are her eyes. So you have that sense of belonging and family. It was beautiful.
Mhm.
I heard melody.
So it's this way to be in coherence with each other, to know each other without necessarily even needing a story.
Mm.
Like without needing to like, oh, where are you from? What do you do? Like I feel like in some ways, even though I asked you to do it, I feel like I was invited into your world for a moment.
Mm. Yeah, same. Very special.
Yeah.
Privileged.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, that's exactly right. I felt like such an honor and a privilege. Like, wow.
Mm. Mm.
Even if someone had just said, like, I see a red book, I would be like, wow, there's a red book in her space. Right?
Yeah.
Just so happened everyone had these like amazing things to share, but it could have been really simple and the co-resonance would have still been there.
Beauty.
Yeah. One other woman that I just interviewed on Threshold Moments, her name is Therese Jornlin, and we were speaking about her time when she was in India working at the House of the Dying with Mother Teresa. And she later, I'm like, did we talk about it on the podcast or just after, was talking about how often we do these things, like the thing that we just did, and then we move on. And so, what I'd love to do one more time, Jamie, I'm so glad that you told me we can go over a little bit, like, is I'll bring us through like one more nervous system practice, and it won't take too long. And then I'm going to ask us to just turn the volume up on it and notice that we're in a group. So we can start to attune to group coherence and see what that feels like. You know, sometimes it feels like that's a strange idea, but as you start to like just get curious, can I attune to the group field and this amplified field of stability. It's an interesting experience. So I would also love to try that with this group. So again, you have choice throughout of what you want to participate in. I'm going to make a series of suggestions, and you can alter it in any way that feels good to you. Anything that is great for one nervous system might be activating for another. So sometimes I'll ask people to look at the wall for stability, and some people will be like, oh, that feels too containing, and other people are like, oh yeah, I can count on it, it's always there. So if the wall is not good, you can look out a window or notice that there's a door. Okay. So taking a nice easy breath in and a breath out. And noticing the lowest point of your body and the contact that point makes with the earth beneath you, or the material that's beneath you. And then as you come up from, whether it's your hips or your feet,
into my space and see this beautiful green room with my group.
so I'll also ask everyone if you can go back onto mute just while we do the meditation. There you go. Thank you so much. Beginning to just get curious, can you feel the material of your clothing touching your lower body? And noticing if it has a texture, it's tight or loose or heavy. And going up your body to again notice the texture of your clothing and the way that it rests on your body. On your shoulders, your arms. And going all the way up to your neck. And if you have hair, you might notice the sensation of your hair touching your neck. Perhaps the breeze on your neck, or a necklace, or what it feels like when nothing is physically touching your neck. And then bringing your attention all the way up to the crown of your head, and then follow it from the crown of your head to the point between your eyebrows, and your attention to the point directly beneath your nose. Then beginning to notice the sensation of the air going in your nose and the air going out of your nose. And on the next breath, the air coming in through the nose and maybe noticing it fill into your body. And on the exhale, it leaving your body. And as you continue to breathe, continue to notice your breath inside your body. So we went from outside to inside. And the question I want to send to you is if there's any part of your body that you can notice that is already stable. So in nervous system work, with all the challenges, we like to start with health. To booster any challenge, start with something that's already good. Is there something already stable inside your body? It may be your breath. It may be a bone. And if you don't notice something stable inside your body, feel free to even gaze into your room or out to nature and just say like, hey, can I copy and paste the trunk of a tree with the stability of this desk? And if you do find something in your body, I would love for you to again notice the texture or the weight. If there's a pulsation or a rhythm, a color or intelligence. And really beginning to amplify your awareness and possibly even the volume, if it feels good to you, of that place within your system that is already stable. And you can stay here with your own stability, or the stability of the earth beneath you. And or you could begin to bring into your awareness that you are in an energetic field with 12 other humans who are all attuning to stability, who are all amplifying stability, which means there's room for things that are not stability, but that the stability begins to be a bolster. Stability is a resource. And just noticing for the next minute or so what it feels like to attune to a field of conscious stability. And when you attune to an energetic field, the amplification doesn't steal from anything. It's generative and abundant. And we're slowly going to begin to taper. Bring your awareness and attention really back into your body, in your space. Feeling your breath. And slowly beginning to open your eyes and just orienting one more time to your space. You could even say your name. Welcome back. So at this point, I have again, just one more time, love to check in to see how you felt. When Jamie and I spoke, opting out of urgency was the theme, but when we spoke, we both seemed to be in agreement as we felt into the field that part of the play today, part of the work today was being in a field of resonance together, being in a place where we recognize that opting out of urgency is not a solo act, and that this connection and community is a major resource that we can tap into, even if we are in a room by ourselves. Yeah, so Jamie says that dropped me into a deep meditative state. Thank you. Keisha, I am never alone. Such a powerful thing to remember. So Jamie, if you want to move into Q&A, I'm happy to move into Q&A, or anything that naturally flows from here, or your general next steps.
Yeah, I wanted to just, first of all, thank you so much, Sarah, for just sharing your incredible gift to all of us. I wanted to share your work and how people can find you. So could you, before we move into Q&A, could you just maybe share where our community can connect with you and access you and your work?
Yes, so you have it right here. That's my website, sarahtacy.com. I have a podcast, Threshold Moments, and I just started back up. We took a little break, so we're on season 4, and that has a lot to do with moving from familiar to optimal and the idea of accompaniment in between. The thing I'm super excited about right now is my membership that I have, that is $47 a month as we do the first year of it, where every Wednesday we meet and we do a nervous system practice, and it's in circle. So that means that all the recordings go up there. The card that we pulled for the day goes up there. And people can commune with each other there as well. And so that practice is very much about like first coming into the body and then doing things for like lubrication, then stabilization, and then expression, and then receiving and rest. And it's 45 minutes with a little time to check in at the bottom. So for me, it's I spent so many years, these last 5 years, doing what we're doing today. But the 15 years before that, it was yoga and dance. And so this is like, oh, like the movement and the breath again. And so it's just so fun to come back to that. So that's a really sweet community that is happening right now too. Thanks for
Thank you
asking.
for sharing that,
Yeah.
Sarah. Okay, so now I'd like to invite everyone here with us to please come on camera. If you're not here yet with us on camera, bring yourself off of mute and let's move into some Q&A. We feel free to use the hand raise function, or feel free just to come into circle. Courtney.
Thank you so much. This has been really lovely. And I feel like you really spoke to something that I've been trying to understand with my own processing, which you mentioned something about the reticulating organizing system. Like when you hear things on delay almost, I feel like I'm chronically where I am, and then someone will speak to me, and then I have to like come out and then come into whatever space they're in when they're talking to me. And it's something I struggle with. I don't want to say struggle, but people who are in relationship with me struggle because they don't feel like I'm listening to them. So I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about how that relates to our nervous system, or just what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, right. Let me change my view so that I can see gallery view. There we go. It's like a big picture of me. Now I can see. Courtney, was that you who just asked the question? Yeah.
Yes.
I love that you called it the reticular organizing system. That is such a great name for it. Clinically, it's called the reticular activating system. So sometimes people will just write RAS. And it's of interest to people because it's essentially that theory that whatever you look for, you'll find. So if you think that somebody, like that everybody is mean and everybody is against you, if you have 11 million bits per second of information coming in, And if your childhood presented in a certain way, the wiring is going to be set up to back up any bias that you have. When information comes in that isn't aligned with that bias or with like what we're trying to get done in the moment, it doesn't tend to come through. And so deep listening can really take a certain amount of like slowing down enough to try to hear in a way that it could break our filter a little bit. Even if Jamie spoke to me, I would hear it in a certain way. And if I replayed what she said to me 3 years from now, I would hear it differently because I would have hopefully learned some things and broken some patterns. But we're constantly filtering through the lens of which we've lived. And when we're moving fast, what we're filtering for is like whatever our goal is or whatever we're trying to get done. And so it can be a protective mechanism to try to help us from going into overwhelm. And so every protective mechanism we have is a very intelligent protective mechanism. Most people who are high achieving have a decent number of, like, they might have a high ACE score, adverse childhood experiences, which I'm not saying you do. But many people do. And what I'm going to say with that is that often our survival mechanisms as children can actually get us quite far. Not always, but for many people, they can get us quite far. And it gets us far in our 20s of like, oh, we really went for the thing. We pushed harder than other people could push. As an athlete, I learned to not feel pain. I was always playing injured. And so it was always like, can I play through the pain? Can I like, and all of these things just inform our reality. And at some point, we will get to a stage where the patterns that once helped us start hurting us. And so it might be, as you were saying, like, I notice, like, it doesn't bother me a lot, but it bothers the people I'm talking about. And therefore, by that, it may be a little uncomfortable for you, or you're noticing it. And so I would be curious if, just like when we were listing the things earlier today, of like, how do you know that you're uh, outside the range of resonance or outside the range of choice? For you, it might be like, I don't hear what people are saying to me. It may also be, there are different like ways of focus. I am a bit neurodivergent. And so like once I get focused on something, I'm so focused on it. And I love it because it takes me a while to get to it. So once I'm in it, I don't really want somebody being like saying something to me going, um, but it is a state of focused activation. And if I were in it all the time, I would be exhausted. Does any of that land or make sense with the question that you asked?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I think some of it is the latter of just being in my head or in my thoughts, and then if someone engages me when I'm in that space, it feels like intrusive in a weird way, which is probably some of my childhood
Yeah.
mechanisms. Um, but yeah, I, it's something that I'm aware of, and I'm just trying to understand a little bit more. So that was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think it's a great question of like, is it intrusive? And if it is intrusive in that you like can't get your work done, or that it's like, are there times that get to be blocked off where it gets just to be like, that's intrusive? And then are there other times where you're like, I really want to connect with my family or my friends, and you're noticing it happening? Then it might be like, oh, what nervous system tool do I have that helps me feel safe enough to slow down enough to really hear someone? I'm putting my hands on my heart because my favorite nervous system tool is pressing my hands into my heart. Um, like already feels so good. And I just wait until I can feel my heartbeat slow down a bit. I have done this when I've had a hard conversation with someone I love. And this one's a good one just for like slowing down into the moment. But what I'll say is like, I also go like, oh, then I have a layer of feeling. And then the thing that I thought was like abandonment, or the thing I thought was not being able to listen, as soon as I'm back in my body, just like the thing of needing to write 20 emails, but then I come back in my body, I'm like, oh, now I can be present with what actually is and not what felt like a threat. There's a few more steps to that one if you guys want just like two more possibilities after the hands on heart. Anyone? All right, so you put your hands on your heart and you wait until your breath slows down. And once your breath slows down, you say three things that feel true enough. And it's important that there's coherence. So I'm not going to say like, I feel happy if actually I'm sad, right? So sometimes it's like, my feet are on the ground. I am here. And then I might attune to the truth that I am safe, if it is true. And my girls will do this sometimes before bed if they're feeling unsure or scared. They'll say, I'm safe, I'm calm. And then you imagine a puppy dog or a kitten or a tiny little animal. This one I learned from Andrew Huberman before he was, people were curious. And this helps to activate when you just imagine a puppy dog. It helps to turn on the oxytocin. I have a really good story around this. I'll do it another time. No, what I'll say is I was having a moment of feeling disconnected from my husband. We were hiking together and he had his own thing going on that had nothing to do with me. I don't usually feel abandonment. And in this moment, I'm like 10 feet behind him and I can't keep up. And I'm like, what the heck? And I was like, this is not going to work, but I'm going to try it. And so I put my hands on my heart. And by the end of it, I was like, oh, I could like really see that he like needed this for his own system. And I fully met myself in the way that I thought I needed him to meet me. But I had imagined like this little puppy dog, and we got to the top of the mountain, and I met this man, Steve, that's the name of my husband. And in his backpack, he had the same puppy dog that I was envisioning. And he goes, he's my heart. And he also happened to be like a trauma therapist. And so Steve's mom was with us too. So Steve's mom hiked with that man's wife. And Steve got to kind of just keep doing his thing. And like the other guy and I, Steve, with my puppy dog, that was his heart, was like, we just like hiked down together. We had the best time. But I was like, this is not going to work. And it did work on its own. And then I got like the added bonus of getting to like hike with a Steve with a puppy dog in his back. Ah, life.
Monica, come on in. Come on in.
That's so funny, puppy dog. No, and that's actually something that I think of frequently because they do calm us. They are, I think of dogs as spirit animals on earth, honestly. They do hold our hearts, but what a terrific story. Like channeling, no, truly, because I have abandonment issues. And so that 100%
Mm,
just resonated with me that sometimes it's not abandonment. It's that that person needs to have their own path. They need to walk their own path. Maybe there's some kind of trauma or situation that they're dealing with in their mind. We know that they love us. We know that we're loved. But, puppy dog.
puppy dog. And I
Puppy
just like,
dog.
it for me, even like that, this is what I teach. Like it was mind blowing when I was like, oh,
Oh,
I'm good. I
yeah.
didn't think
I'm
it was going to
okay.
work, to be honest. I was like, this shit's not.
Yeah.
And I did it. And I was like,
It
after a
just
while, I was like,
worked.
whoa, this
Yeah.
is
Like
really good.
I just I have a Madam Sugar Royale. She's my puppy dog. And I just thought of Madam Sugar. It just makes me
This stuff works.
I'm
Yeah,
so
it's amazing.
happy. Yeah.
Mhm.
Monica, do you have a question for Sarah?
I do. What a joy hearing you talk today. And, you know, I was a swimmer all my life, and I feel like today sometimes I am still swimming. There's an urgency there. And, when I can't really feel or get my head above water to get that breath, what is something, I think all of these things that you're saying and the practicing breath can help us get from that urgency where we absolutely need breath. We're in the water, we feel like we're drowning. Um, yeah, just I think my question is, how do you keep pushing forward? How do you keep pushing forward?
Yeah, I want to say you don't, and you do. And so it is
Yeah.
the small steps over time. It is what I learned with the athletes, right? Like an athlete can't keep pushing forward. They need recovery. And you could say, like, I don't have time for recovery. So you're like, what else helps with recovery? Looking out the window and seeing the balm of the evergreens, right? Like
Mhm.
noticing, was it Courtney who noticed the like the golf clubs and noticing like, oh, my own patience and presence to something that I want to come. The like I mentioned it, but like going up on your toes and dropping your heels down, like there are little
Okay.
tools
Yeah, thank you.
that there can use at any point. Because I have also had the same question. I just like literally I study the stuff, I've lived it, I've seen that it works, and I'll have moments where I'm like, this is all too much. And like creating community who reminds you that you're not alone, that you're not wrong for feeling the way that you're feeling, and then just like co-regulation, whether it's with a tree, with your dog, or with a friend and community. But it is every time that you have the experience of doing some form of self-care and you see how it shifts your perspective on like the next step that you needed to take anyway, like, oh, I'll add one more thing is that I called my friend Kate Northrup when I had like a whole like shitload of stuff to do, and I was like, "Do I take a bath or do I get everything done first?" Like I literally reached out, "What do I do?" And she was like, her literal is like body first, and it didn't have to be a 3 hour bath, right? I took a 20-minute bath, and again the list that felt like it like, oh, I won't feel good until the list is done. That's bullshit. The list is never going to be done.
Never.
Never. So you don't keep swimming. You don't keep pushing through. You take the bath, even if it's 20 minutes. You step outside, you put your feet on the grass. And it's like Jerry Molitor says stress is when you have more demands than resources. Society has set us up to have more demands than resources. We live in our own houses, most of us. Like with our own cars or transportation, and we're separate, 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 which actually makes more demands. We think it's like easier and better. And so it just is so important to like remind ourselves the list will never end. But if we do 5 to 20 minutes of something that feels good to us, even if we think we can't, because we're like, oh, I'm so anxious and I'll feel better once I get it all done. I took the bath and then I was like, oh, actually just these three things. And because now my mind and body are coherent and clear, I get them done in 5 minutes instead of like this for 3 hours. So I'll just say like it's like just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Remember that movie? Is it Dora?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, but also and like take those pauses because I think it's the only real way through without losing ourselves. Yeah.
Thank you.
Question.
Keisha, over to you.
Malika, it was great to have you.
Thank you, Malika.
I have a question about, I can't really come to your regulating your nervous system calls with Kate because I always fall asleep. So
Yeah.
I recognize that it's like a mechanism, but how do I not do that? Or
Okay.
can I?
Two things. One of my favorite books is called Walking Through Walls. And in that, the father of the person who wrote the story would go to this meditation group every week and he would fall asleep every time. And so we could say it's a protective a mechanism. That means like we're not getting anything from it. We go into collapse and we pass out. A year or two into it, he like wakes up, and I'm not saying this is gonna happen for you, no promises. He like wakes up and is like an enlightened being who can do like all this energy work. But the thing is, he was like, oh, something is happening even when we fall asleep. But another option, which is the option I would like, I don't know why that book came up. So it came up. So I'm just gonna say that's there. Another option is to like listen to it, listen to the recording. Listen to it on like 1.25 or 1.5 and take it on a walk so that your body is moving. So sometimes, again, slow can trigger that feeling of unsafe. And if a body feels really unsafe and or if the habitual way for your survival is to freeze or collapse, then you're going to go into that state because I'm going so slow. So this is one of those things where you could say like slow is really good for many systems, but for many systems, slow is too fast. Does that make sense? Like it's too fast to go that slow. So when all of those calls I'll start, I say like, I go slow on purpose. You can go whatever speed you want. This first call that I did for this group, I actually spoke a lot faster this time, did the meditation portion for 20 minutes and made it slow, but not as long because I didn't want to like affect so many systems, even though people a year later will be like, that was the most impactful thing for me because it changed the way they speak, the way they interact with their family. But again, if you want to listen to them, listen to the recording, put it a little bit faster, take it on a walk, or like do it while you're doing dishes or cleaning the house because you don't have to be like statue still to get the benefits.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's Walking Through Walls. I haven't read it in so many years, which is why it's funny that it came
The
up. But
author, Sarah? Who's the author?
I don't know. It's literally so many years, but I just love this story. I'm looking at I'm like, I know it's blue. Is it in there with my blue books?
Oh, is it Philip Smith?
I don't know. I really don't know. I can look it up and see if it's on here. It's one of those books. It's almost like um it's one of those books that like supposedly it's true, but it feels like fiction. And those are like my favorite. And Into the Magic Shop feels a little bit like that. But it is like a true story of somebody's life. Into the Magic Shop is the story of James Doty, who is a neurosurgeon. And he had a lot of trauma as a kid. And he met a woman who helped him come into his body and eventually taught him manifestation. But he kind of tells a story of like what happens if you become really good at manifestation without first touching into your heart. That's a great one.
This is Walking Through Walls. After a full day of creating beautiful interiors for the rich and famous, Lou Smith would come home, take off his tie, and get down to his real work as a healer who miraculously cured thousands of people. Is that the book?
Oh, maybe that is it. There was like a story of like they lived in Miami in the
Yeah,
70s.
Miami in the 60s. Yeah.
Oh, 60s. Okay, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's it.
Amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Sarah. This was extraordinary
Thanks for
and
having me.
exquisite. And just from the depths of our circle, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so grateful. What you carry is such a gift, and no words can really describe. So thank you. And so what I want to name as we come to a close today is that what happened today is not on an individual basis, right? It is more than that. It is when one of us comes to do this work, when each of us show up, we start to release, we start to recalibrate, we start to return back to ourselves, and it starts to ripple right into our families, into our communities, into the collective field. And so what I would like to encourage each and every one of us to do is to carry what moved through us today really gently, write it down, voice record it, walk it out, give it room to breathe. And whatever shifted today needs integration to land. And so, with that said, we look forward to gathering with you all again next month, June 6th, with our dear brother Eugene Gant on his theme From Chaos to Clarity. It's a beautiful continuation of today's work, and it is a breathwork ceremony for the soul. And so from all of us here at Psychable, thank you so much for being part of the circle. May you all continue to live, speak, and lead from the power and the depth of your own inner knowing in your truth. And so let us all continue to stay connected. And for today, we will close our container together. Sarah, I'd like to invite you to blow out the candle. And so in unity, we return to source. Thank you all today. Many blessings to you. Thank you, my dear sister Sarah. Thank you to each of you. So honored to have you all here with us today. We'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.